I'm Julian, and I'm your Biology 2600 lab instructor for this semester. I'm going to start this video the way I'm going to start all the videos, and that's by saying I'm here to help in any way that I can. All you have to do is ask. No matter how many questions you have, I'll be happy to answer each and every one of them. And whatever issues you have, just let me know, and I guarantee you'll find a solution that you're happy with. This week we're going to be doing Lab 1. Part 1 of this lab is the MUN Botanical Gardens tour, and Part 2 is the R and RStudio software download and installation. Also, you should take a look at the literature assignments. So, please read the Lab 1 file before watching this video, and you can use it to follow along. Remember that this is a video, so you can pause at any time and rewind. Once you're finished, please complete the Lab 1 quiz. The purpose of this lab is to observe the different ecosystems that occur here at Botanical Gardens, and specifically in the boreal forest. As we visit and discuss the different sites, I will also point out some ecological processes that will be discussed in further detail throughout the course. These ecological processes are listed in Lab 1, and they're also listed here, along with the sites at which they will be discussed. We're going to begin by orienting ourselves and taking a quick look at this entire location. This is a large portion of Memorial University's St. John's campus. Over here you can see the science building. Here you can see the new core science facility. And if we travel over to MUN Botanical Gardens, you will see something like this. So this is the parking lot in which I'm standing, this is the building behind me, this is Oxen Pond, and you can sort of make out most of the trails that surround Oxen Pond. So the reason I brought this up is to show you this entire green area. All of this is part of the boreal forest, which is made up mostly of fir trees, some spruce trees with a little birch, and the ground is covered in crackerberries and moss. We're going to be visiting a number of small ecosystems within this forest. So here is the trail map at Botanical Gardens. This is the parking lot in which I'm standing, the building, Oxen Pond, and you can clearly see the surrounding trails here. The red letters show where each of the sites are that we're going to be visiting, and the description of these sites are in the Lab 1 file. At each of the sites that we visit, we'll be discussing the amount and variety of vegetation and why it occurs in that particular ecosystem. To do this, we're going to consider two resources that affect plant growth, and these are sunlight and water/nutrients. As you know from first year biology, plants are autotrophs, which means their leaves absorb the energy from the sun, which is then used to make food for the plant. Water and nutrients, which the plant also needs to grow, are found in the soil and are taken up by the roots. Obtaining water and nutrients from the soil depends on whether they are available and the ability of the roots to actually absorb them. Here we are at Site 1A. This site is a young boreal forest. By taking a quick look around, we can see that the trees look fairly similar. In fact, they're all the same species. Specifically, they are all fir trees. All the trees are approximately the same height, as we'll see in a second. They're the same girth or thickness, so they're approximately the same age. Lastly, we can see that they're fairly densely packed. Now let's go into a little bit more detail. At the top, we have the canopy. This area is a little difficult to distinguish due to the height of the trees, so here's a helpful diagram. The canopy is the above ground portion of the plant community formed by the collection of tree crowns. which can be seen here. Just below the canopy we have the understory, which is shown here. In this case it consists of bare trees. Notice the lack of leaves, and even in some cases the lack of branches. And lastly we have the forest floor, which is a layer of fallen fir needles, shown here in the brown, and moss, the green. So in terms of light, even though it's a bright day outside, when you look at the forest it looks relatively dark. The reason for this is that the canopy creates a layer that blocks light from penetrating and reaching everything below. So at the tops of the trees there are branches with leaves, so lots of growth, but in the understory there are no leaves and in some cases no branches. This process is called auto-pruning, and it occurs because branches in the understory don't receive any light, so they can't make any food, causing them to wither away and eventually die. This process is assisted by lichens that grow on trees, which produce acids that further weaken the branches and cause them to break off more easily. And the idea is the same on the forest floor. Little light means that only shade-tolerant plants like mosses can grow. In terms of water and nutrients, keep in mind that this area is densely packed with trees. This means that there's a lot of competition, specifically intra-specific competition. This means within the same species, and this is in contrast to inter-specific competition, which is between different species. This competition reduces the amount of nutrients and water available in each tree. So even though these trees produce seedlings, the lack of light under the canopy in combination with the lack of water and nutrients prevents new trees from growing. This explains why the trees here are all the same size. They must have started growing at approximately the same time, and due to the conditions they created, prevented new ones from growing afterward. We stopped a little further down the trail at Site 1B because this site provides a nice gradual transition from the previous site into the next site. Here we see a few trees that were cut down. The removal of these trees created a break in the canopy, which resulted in the availability of light, and the fallen trees are no longer using nutrients and water from the soil. As a matter of fact, their decomposition is actually providing nutrients to the soil. So, as you can see, availability of light, water, and nutrients results in the growth of new trees and even different types of plants. As you can see here, by the small trees that have recently started growing. Here we are at Site 2. This site shows a self-replacing balsam fir forest, also known as a climax boreal forest. By taking a look at this site, we can see that the trees are of different sizes, which means there's a stratification of ages. We can also see that the trees are less densely packed relative to Site 1A. When we take a closer look, you can see the 4 representative plant species of a true boreal forest. Here we see fir trees, which have flat needles, and the arrangement of needles on the branch is also relatively flat. Here we have a spruce tree, which have squarish needles, and the arrangement of needles on the branch is more circular. On the forest floor, we have mosses, which can be seen here, and crackerberries, which are these orange berries here. A climax forest occurs when an ecosystem reaches a relatively steady state and final stage in ecological succession. Fir trees are the dominant species, and they are self-replacing. This means as the trees get old and tall, they fall down, and as they do, they knock other trees down. The fallen trees create a break in the canopy, allowing sunlight through, and they also decompose, providing nutrients to the soil. This allows new trees to grow. This process continues over and over.